Hey guys, I'm Matt Lighty, and in this video I'm going to be talking about my league starter for 3.25 Settlers of the Kalguur. This is the melee league with buffs reaching upwards of 2 to 3 times the damage for certain melee skills. And I'm going to be joining the fray and playing the buffed melee skill with the buffed melee class. And I picked Gladiator, Bleed, Perforate. Now, specifically, the Perforate I'm talking about is Perforate of Bloodshed. Good to know that the other Perforates, Perforate, I think it's it, Perforate, had their physical tags removed. The Perforate, and then they wanted duality, but the bleeding one didn't. It's the bleed one. That's what it does. It's there to bleed. So, what Bloodshed does is basically just has a more bleed multiplier, causes bleeding, and then they're buffing it substantially. So if you take a look at what the actual buff is here of Bloodshed, no longer has the flat fizz, now has a damage effectiveness, goes to 87 at 1 from 60, and it went from 85 to 245. That's a buff. Now the downside of all these melee buffs, I would say, is that their mana cost went up. Now, this is mitigated by some new nodes in the tree, and it shouldn't be too bad. There's a couple ways to split mana costs. The tree was changed, I would say, not substantially, but decently in the melee regions. The one notable thing for our mana mitigation is the life node that has the 15% of mana cost is life instead of mana, was 30, now 15, but got two little nuggets of nodes that are going to help us, and we also path up as a max block gladiator into tireless, which does reduce our mana cost a little bit. But we do pick up this new node called Spirit of War. Small node is reduced mana cost of attacks, and then it is 0.5 fizz attack leached as mana, and then another reduced mana cost of attack. So we're getting some decent reduction there. And from that mastery, we are grabbing 5% mana regen flat. That you couple with our very meager, tiny, little baby level 1 clarity gives us about 8 flat regen, which honestly should be enough to just attack a couple times. A little bit of mana efficacy for ores off our second mana mastery, which was Cannibalistic Rite, totally changed now into the new Cannibalistic Rite. Same small node, 8%, 15 for the large. Then it has attack skills cost life instead of 10% of mana. So you got 15% less from the mastery, 10% there, a couple reduction there, a couple reduction there. Really shouldn't be too big of a deal. With 8 flat, I think we'll be okay. If it's not, we'll audible, but I digress. So the basis of the build is a bleed physical build. The reason I'm choosing Perforate over Lacerate or Earthquake or whatever is kind of fucking arbitrary. I haven't played Perforate in a while. It's kind of cool. It has like a shotgun effect. You attack and little spikes come up. That's about it. It's a transgem. I like to use transgem, so I will be farming it in the lab. It just kind of seemed like a fun thing. The annoying part of Perforate, because it used to be a blood and sand skill, is that you'd have to activate and enable blood and sand or flesh and stone and mix between that for the different dualities of it, but the blood one is always blood. Don't have to deal with that, and that I kind of like. The supports on it are your standard kind of melee bleed stuff. You could wiggle if you want to run volatility instead of deadly elements. Feel free if you want to run multi-strike. If you feel like that gives you more clear or yada yada, feel free. However, our clear is going to be, I think, mostly covered by the new Glad. Now, the new Glad has the old Explode, 20%, fantastic. And it has a secondary node being something new, which is Jagged Techniques, which is bleeds you inflict are aggravated. Now, aggravated bleeds basically is a bleed as if they're moving. So what does that actually mean? What if I just left this part in and didn't cut this out? If the target is moving, they take 3 times base damage, or 210% damage per second off the base. So that's what that does. It basically triples your damage. Now, tripling is cool. We like that. The other part we like is this War of Attrition thing that's new. There's also this other thing called Weapon Masters new. Basically, all of it's new. But this is like, this is the non-negotiables, and the rest is kind of freaky. So this other node is really, really weird. I'm going to read out loud. You at home might I'd digest this and then be like, you have a preconceived notion of what this does. But this requires mass clarification because there's a lot of things here. Okay. Deal 1% more damage with hits and ailments to rare and unique enemies for each second they've been in your presence, up to a maximum of 100%. What does it mean for an enemy to ever be in your presence, right? That's the question. Is in your presence just in the instance? Is in your presence like an actual distance? Is it like within 20 meters in game? They've ever been. That means if I get this up to 14%, I die, and I come back, am I fighting the same boss in the same arena? Are we picking back up at 14%? So, you know, without clarification specifically, nobody knows for a fact what this does, because they've ever been in your presence is like kind of anomalous. So I think it is instance-based. I think it stacks for perpetuity as long as you're fighting that boss. So if I'm fighting Maven, I get to 22%. She phases next time she's back out. I'm back at 22% and rising. If that's the case, this is a gross multiplier. So compared to the other node, Weapon Master. Now, the only damage scaling part of Weapon Master is the axe portion at the bottom. 30% more if they're on low life. All right, so low life is 50% or lower. So 30% or more on low life effectively comes out to be 15% more damage. If a fight lasts for more than 15 seconds, War of Attrition would just be better. And then every second past that, exponentially better, capping at 100% more damage, stacking on our already triple damage from Jagged Technique. So that's interesting stuff. I like this. We're going to mess around with it. The other part is this one. Determined Survivor. Gain 50% base chance to block from equipped shield instead of the shield's value. This basically reads, if your shield has a block of 29%, is as if it's 50. That's our scaling from our base value. So just a huge chunk of block. We like that. We're going to pick up blocks. We're picking up effective damage nodes, effective block nodes, block, 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 bleed, block, unwavering. Don't like being stunned. Isn't very fun. Picking up versatile combatant. This coupled with Tempest Shield should give us roughly cap block. Feels good. Hematophagy for a little bit of leech. Golem's Blood for some life and regen. Testudo gives you a little bit of block from life on block. Very cool. This new node is interesting. So new Bastion Breaker has a 50% chance to ignore fizz damage with hits, and the Mastery is another 50%, so a 100% chance to ignore enemy physical damage with hits. Now, I'm not exactly sure this is going to interact with bleed, if it's going to calculate the hit, then scale the dot off of that or not, but this is like one of those things where it's up in the air. Another kind of up in the air thing is this new Vengeance node, where you gain rage. When hit, we get hit a lot, so it's like, could be good. I don't, it's just, I don't know yet. Picking up Steadfast and the Mastery for guaranteed Fortify, some more life, some more bleed, some more block, life, bleed, block, life, bleed, block, axe nodes. The axe masteries and nodes themselves are great. They're so, so good. The other one really pick up because the other ones have to do with like crit and things we don't care about, but we're going to pick up the 15% bleed faster. There's arguments to be made here for 10% more on low, rage on hit, destruction of enemies. They're all just really good stuff. Pathing up here to RT. We don't crit. We don't want to miss. Feels good. There's a new mastery, a new Ellie res node here. It's just 2% pathing through with one on the small side. If you preferred cold, feel free to grab it. I just grabbed lightning because shock scared me more than freezes personally, so I'm going to go through there. But there's validity to pick up this entire wheel. 1 point for a max res is nothing to scuff at. And yeah, grabbing the sanctuary node here with just some more life. The end result of this tree is actually more life than I expected to get. So we're at 99, basically 100% increased life with some decent flat. If I get to like 4k life, I'm playing a max block build, right, with max spell and regular, along with running determination. And I have like I'll probably have like 80 all res. Feels pretty decent to me. I'm not gonna like be too spooked by that because most small hits I'll mitigate. Coupling back in the skills here, a little bit of a hard time filling the skills, unironically. Here's kind of a build that is like similar in form or function from a previous league, and a lot of the things we can no longer use, like Call to Arms doesn't work with Warcries anymore. You have to manually cast them, otherwise you're just trying to exert, which we don't care about. Banners are no longer auras, you place them like totems were. Don't care about that. Won't have an Enlightened high enough to run a Herald in the beginning, so it's not relevant. Malevolence, I would run with a Blessing. Blessings are no longer in the game. Can't run that. Reckoning doesn't exist anymore. They're not all Retaliation skills, which are manually triggered, so can't run that. It's actually kind of goofy how little things I have to work with here. now, but retaliation skills do exist, and the one that we're looking at, if anything, might be this fist one. Where is it exactly? All right, crushing fists retaliates against a blocked hit by slamming a huge armored fist into the ground. Could be good. I don't know like what retaliate skills feel like. If they feel worth using, I'll use them. If they don't, and I don't want to run a 4-link setup, or running that 4-link just feels kind of poopy, I'm not going to use them. If they turn out to be really, really good, there is representation on the passive tree for them. There's a retaliate cluster, there's a retaliate notable, there's retaliate keystones, there's retaliate stuff over here, there's retaliate stuff inside Gladiator. I don't know. I don't know how retaliate feels. If it feels worthwhile, we'll use it. If it doesn't, we won't. It's that simple. But I think we'll be okay regardless, you know? But that's basically it. And then, oh yeah, for the bandit choice, bandits were changed now. So it's like 15 all res, 8% movement, 40 life. The 40 life sure looks better now that they nerfed the life mastery down from 50 to 30. I'm still not going to take it. I'd rather pass a point, because to me that's just, I can get to what I want faster, and that's kind of what I care about. You know, it's like, if this tree is like basically perfect and I'm 93, would I value that life over any one of these endpoint notables? Not at all. So it's like, that's kind of where I'm at. But yeah, that's it. That's the basis of the build. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. It'll be in the description below. But this build, like every other build, basically that people are making this patch, that's using new techniques, new skills, new gems, new interactions. We don't know how this is going to feel until we play with it. So keep that in mind. If it feels bad, we pivot. If it doesn't, we continue. I'm not going to like lie to you and say this is going to work, you know, 1,000,000%. Anybody who says this is the new best starter build, and it's like something that's never been used before in the history of the game, like retaliation skills, I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, I think it's going to be fine. I'm going to mess around with it. If it feels good, again, that's great. If not, we'll pivot. The only downside I would say, like if we were to pivot to like bleed bows, there's not enough nodes in the tree that work with bows. Like only the 6 nodes work. Everything else, these don't work. Small nodes it is. And I'm not sure exactly what I want to do here, like for that, you know, these last couple, but maybe I'll drop this and grab this. Maybe I'll drop this and grab this. I'm not sure yet. So we'll play around, we'll mess around, but this is the basis of what I want to use so far. Yeah, should be fun. Should be pretty easy to start. I'm gonna, you know, just basically start with regular Perforate. I'm going to get to lab, and when I get to lab, I'm going to farm out the Perforate I want, the trans one. And once I get that, we'll move on from there. The only real unique that we could use or look forward to using is Flawed Refugees, a pretty nice one. If we want to maybe not use the block node, that's a good one. It has a lot of block recovery. And yeah, that 40% elemental damage being mitigated as physical is nice, along with the fact we're going to have like 80 all res. So, you know, just a lot of elemental mitigation. It's actually a decent shield, unironically. Eventually, you'd want to use a Surrender. Surrender did get buffed to replace Reckoning with the new fist thing, so could be some cool interactions there. But yeah, that's it. That's the build. Any question? Yeah, that's it. I'm leaving now, and you can't follow me. Okay. Perforate a Bloodshed, Gladiator, 3.25. Lighty out. Bye-bye.